In this couple of videos, we're going to be looking at factoring quadratic expressions in order to solve quadratic equations by factoring. Now, before we get into that, I want to review what factoring means using numbers, something I'm sure we're pretty confident with. If I asked you to factor these three numbers, starting with number 77, if I was going to factor 77, I'd be looking for two numbers that I can multiply together that make 77. Well, I think it's pretty obvious that that would be 7 and 11. And a factor tree is one way that we can write that. So 7 times 11 would be the factors of 77. Here I've turned it into the product of two smaller numbers. If I were to ask you to factor 52, you could split it up into maybe 13 times 4. 13 being a prime factor, I could stop there, but 4 could be factored further into 2 times 2. So the factors of 52 are 2 and 13. 32, if I actually factor that, we could do a number of different ways. Let's say we start with 8 times 4. Well, 4 can be factored into 2 times 2. And 8 can be factored into 4 times 2. And 4 can be factored one more time into 2 times 2. So in the end, I've got 5 2's multiplied together. I could write that as 2 times 2 times 2, etc. Or I could write it as 2 to the 5th. So either way, I've factored a set of numbers. I've turned it into the product of smaller numbers. Now, as we solve quadratic equations by factoring, a couple of words that we need to remember first of all. So monomial, when you hear that term, that means one term. The word binomial means two terms, and trinomial means three terms. So factoring in this sense means expressing a polynomial as the product of two or more monomials or polynomials. So going back a little bit, you already know how to FOIL. So we practiced this in a previous lesson where I had two binomial factors written next to each other. That means multiplication. Well, the process to multiply these two together, we use the acronym FOIL because I take the first terms, multiply them together, I get x squared. Outer terms together, x times 3 is 3x. Inner terms is next, so that's 2 times x, and I get 2x. And then L for last, we take the last terms, multiply them together. 2 times 3 is 6. When I'm done, I add the like terms in the middle together, and my final expression looks something like this. X squared plus 5x plus 6. So there I have a product of binomial factors, something we've already practiced. I think we're pretty good at it. In this lesson, we're going to relearn. I say relearn because I believe you did this in Algebra 1. We're going to relearn how to factor. We're going to be given the trinomial, and we're going to need to turn it into the product of binomial factors. So here's factoring. I'm asked to factor, turn this into factors or factor the expression. Well, I start by writing out a pair of parentheses in which the two binomial factors will go. Now, as I look at this, when I see x squared as the first term in my trinomial, I know there's only a couple of ways, a couple of things I can multiply together to get x squared. So I'm going to go ahead and write, as it says here, we're going to write x as the first term in each binomial because I know that when I FOIL them, and factoring is like the inverse or the opposite of FOIL, I would be taking the first terms times each other to come up with this term in the expression. So x times x gives me x squared. Great. Now, as I work through FOIL, the last number here, 6, came from multiplying the last terms together, 2 times 3. So as I factor, I need the last term in the two binomials. I need these to be factors of the final number because they need to multiply together and become this number, whatever it might be. So as I think about the factors of 6, I'll just write them down off to the side. I can get 6 by taking 1 times 6 or 2 times 3. So either of those pairs of factors would multiply together to be 6. However, when I do FOIL, I take the outer and the inner terms, and usually I add that together. So what happens is I need the pair of factors that add up to the middle term in my trinomial. So of these two pairs, 1 and 6 or 2 and 3, well, 2 and 3 are the pair that multiply together to be 6, but add up to be 5. Both positive, so I'll go ahead and put plus in each pair of parentheses. I'll call this one x plus 2. My other binomial will be x plus 3. two binomial factors, this is what my answer looks like right here. This is it. And notice that's the exact same thing that we started with when we were going the other direction, when we were foiling and turning it into a trinomial. So factoring means take a polynomial expression, typically a trinomial with three terms, and turn it into the product of two binomial factors.